All right. Hey, what's up, guys? So in this video, I'm going to be going over the $3,000 trade that I made like 2 days before my birthday. So to start off, here is my TradeOvate account. The only thing I blocked on the left was like literally my account balance and my account number and stuff like that. But if you know anything about TradeOvate, you know what this looks like. So you can see that I lost the first trade for $742, but then my following trade, I ended up making $3,053, and then I netted like 2,300 after commission was like 22. So here's that. But let's go over to the charts and break that down. It was down here. So we're going to start on the higher time frame. Okay, ignore the lines. I've literally been trading around these levels of support and resistance for like almost 2 months. So this week I got to clear up my charts and just start fresh. But okay, so around that time, what I noticed on the daily was that we were clearly on a bullish trend on the daily time frame, and that's only because of the fact that this area here that formed this lower high was taken out, and this ultimate lower high up here was also taken out eventually, right? All the way up here. So once we shifted price to the upside over here after reaching, I think it was 18,913, we made that higher high and then price started pulling back. So what I noticed was we had previous structure here, which was these levels of resistance here, here, and here, and here. And what did price start doing? We started rejecting these levels. And as you guys can see, these rejections were really, really strong. We had a lot of sellers exhaustion to the bottom. And not to mention, it was 2 days in a row. That was the real thing that kind of like triggered in my brain. I'm like, yo, we rejected it once here. All of this sellers exhaustion where selling pressure was to the downside here and buyers brought price all the way back up here. Sorry, my allergies were acting up all day. Now, the following daily candle, we also noticed that the price was making a higher low at the bottom, followed by a higher high wick. Now, we were able to close above the body of the previous daily candle. We weren't able to break the highs. But again, guys, that rejection of this previous area of resistance as newfound potential support was crucial for me on the daily time frame. So when I went down to the 4-hour time frame, what I noticed was we did have bearish flow. You know, we had a lower high here, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. But the detail that really mattered, even here, we had an equal high followed by a higher low. What mattered to me was, even though we have this downtrend on the 4-hour time frame, and obviously you'll see it was a downtrend on the H1 time frame as well, that bearish flow became irrelevant to me the moment I saw how the daily candle was closing in these areas. Because remember, guys, one thing you'll notice is that when you see bearish flow on a lower time frame, but then you see sellers exhaustion on a higher time frame, you're going to realize that you need to ignore that bearish flow, because that higher time frame is showing you that sellers are becoming exhausted and they're losing strength. So that lower high, lower low that you're seeing on the H1 and H4 becomes very irrelevant. But those are the little details that you guys got to keep be aware of as you're trading. So now, once I started seeing how we were holding this level of support, we had done a break below and a break back above, making new highs. I saw price came back retesting, forming a higher low, but we were ultimately just consolidating. So now, as we started seeing that, what I ended up going down to was the H1 time frame, just to get a little bit more detail on the data that I was seeing. And what I was noticing was, again, we did have that range up here, right? So if I mark off this area here, this was an area of resistance, right? But this area was an area of support. Now, I know that as long as we're trading above this zone up here, I know that overall bulls are a lot stronger, right? So even though I see resistance here, my mind was focused on, hey, H1 had just done this rejection candle here, clearly rejecting the price point of 18,467. Once I seen that rejection, I knew that buyers were in control above that level of support. So my mind was set on taking buys to at least this level of resistance up here. Okay. And so once I saw that, I went down to lower time frames. I was down all the way down to, I think it was M15 and M5. And later on, you'll see I was on M1 as well. So I went down to M5, and what I noticed was, remember guys, I lost my first entry. My first entry on that trade was somewhere around here. Once I seen this rejection candle here, where I started seeing price had broken above the 200 moving average. Price started consolidating sideways, and then we were printing a bullish pin bar, which was showing you that, hey, buyers were rejecting this area of price. So I entered somewhere here. My stops were somewhere like here. And ultimately, I ended up getting stopped out here, which is fine. But I also knew that that pullback was going to be valid for buys as long as we maintained this yellow box here, which is an area of support, because we had this area here where it was support. We had this area here where it was resistance, resistance, support. We've already shown bullish pressure to the upside here. And we've also done what? Had multiple attempts to break below, but failed for that to happen, right? So now, once I saw that, I kind of just said, hey, okay, I got stopped out for $742, but here's what I'm going to do. Let me go down to lower time frames and see how price reacts to that area. And what I noticed was this. When price, after price had stopped me out up here, I noticed that price was pulling back into that zone where, again, guys, look at all of this seller's exhaustion. Look at all this bullish pressure. I know that buyers are here. I just have to see if they're going to hold that level by giving me some type of either exhaustion candle or some type of momentum candle, like a bullish engulfing or a bullish engulfing variation. So once I saw price print out this candle, I was like, okay, let's see what's going on. Once it printed out this bearish candle that closed with his exhaustion, I was like, all right, let me look out for one more candle and seeing how that next candle closed. The next candle, again, was a bullish pin bar where you guys can see, again, a lot of bullish pressure came into that candle at the bottom. So once I saw that, I made my entry in that area and I put my stops below that yellow box because, guys, not only am I taking my entry at an area of support, but I also want my stop loss to be below that level or that area of support, because if I am wrong, I know that if price trades any lower than this box, ultimately it's going to come down to this area of support where I could look for a potential, rejection or a shift in momentum to take buys back up. But for this entry, I don't want to see price down here if I do believe that price has a higher probability of going in my favor, right? So once I took that first entry, let me move this out of the way. Once I took that first entry, price did go in my favor a little bit. It was struggling a lot, like rejecting that moving average to the downside, which again, if I didn't understand that the daily was closing with all that seller's exhaustion, I might have gotten scared of the market making these double top patterns where it could continue to make lower lows and lower highs, which ultimately it made a lower high here. It made a lower low here. But what did it do? It did not break below that level of support, ultimately breaking below this wick here, right? So once I saw that, I was like, all right, cool. I'm in a little bit of drawdown. It's okay. And then the market started to shift back into my favor with these wicks where it started making higher lows, higher highs, and started going in my favor. Now, at this point, when price was around this area, I was at the dentist with my girlfriend, and I was sitting in the office and I had my laptop. And what I noticed was, wait a minute, we broke above the moving average now. And we also broke above this area here, which was an area of resistance. Let me mark that off with this line. This was an area of resistance right here, right? So once we took that out on the 1 minute time frame, I started seeing that, hey, price is moving in my favor because, guys, ultimately I'm taking buys because I believe the market is going to go higher than where it was. So once the market broke that level of resistance, that's one indication that price is going to move in your favor, because breaking levels of resistance is what happens on a bullish trend. So once I seen that, I was waiting for a price to retest this area as newfound support since it was previously held as resistance. So once I started seeing the market showing all this little bits of exhaustion here and that consolidation, after I seen price give us this bullish engulfing pattern here with all of this seller's exhaustion on the bottom, I added more to my positions because initially I had 12 contracts running. So I added an additional 6 contracts. And what I did was my first 12 contracts, I brought them into break even somewhere down here. And then I put my new stop loss for my new 6 contracts in that same area as well. So I secured some profits on my first couple positions. So if I did lose on that second position that I scaled in, it wouldn't really matter because my first position would have covered those losses. So ultimately, price did end up moving in my favor by breaking up above more levels of resistance. And what happened is, guys, when I was in that office, I was in profit around like $2,000 at one point. And I noticed that price started pulling back way harder and my break even was somewhere around here. And I was like, you know what? I need to watch out for this trade because it's flowing in my favor. But because it was around 2 something in the afternoon, price could pull back to correct this initial impulse, which it did. So by the time we left the dentist office and we came back home, what I noticed was price was just retesting this area here. And so I kept holding on that trade, letting it flow. And ultimately I closed that trade somewhere up here for a total gain of that $3,053. My take profit overall was up here, which was for $4,000, which would have been 4 times my risk. But again, guys, it was literally like, I think it was like a Tuesday or something. It was already like 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. I think it was, yeah, see, it was like 2:15 when I closed that trade. So at the end of the day, it was almost at the end of the day. I was already in that trade since like, I think I was on that trade around 11:34. So I was just like, you know what, $3,000, I'm not going to complain. It was my second $3,000 day for 2024. So I was like, yeah, let me secure that profit and just move on with my life. But ultimately, guys, this was how I managed the trade. And you guys can see over here how it ended up playing out, guys. So ultimately, y'all see me do the top-down analysis from the daily, the H4, the H1. Y'all see me execute my entries based on M1 and M5. And y'all seen how I managed that trade by scaling in, as well as managing my break even as price was moving in my favor. And like I said, my reason for closing this trade was literally just off satisfaction. I was just happy with the $3,000 profit that I was seeing. I was already up three times my initial risk because I was risking about $1,000 on that position. So once I hit that 3R, guys, like I'm not going to be greedy. I'm going to take what I see and be happy about it. So like I said, if I kept holding that trade, because remember, there was no reason for me to really close that trade besides satisfaction. And I remember as price was struggling to close in this area up here, it was struggling to close. I told myself, as long as I have a bullish candle close on M5 above that level, I will keep holding, where I did ultimately hold for that 3,000. But if I kept holding a little bit longer, yeah, I could have made another $1,000. But guys, you're never going to catch the full move. There's always going to be so many left on the table. So let's not get greedy. And again, guys, there's going to be a free course dropping. So if you guys want to follow and subscribe on the video and follow the Facebook group page where I'll be dropping that link sometime this upcoming week, you guys will be able to get that free course. And then there will be an advanced course for those who are a lot more advanced and want a lot more in-depth information on how I trade and how I go about my day when it comes to trading. So again, peace.